Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, and this is What Gear is My Gear Part 9, my series where I am talking about the audio gear that I have chosen to keep around either for personal listening enjoyment or to use as reference pieces for review work. And those two categories are very often one and the same. And here in this 9th episode, we are going to talk about the Beyerdynamic DT880 600 ohm edition. This is a roughly now $200 semi-open dynamic driver headphone from legendary German maker Beyerdynamic. Now, one thing to note on this one is that there is normally an attached cable to this headphone. I have personally gone through and modded this to be dual entry and detachable so that I can use it as a reference piece for a wider range of things, and also it's much more convenient without that attached cable. Okay, but I will put some links to where you can buy this down in the description. I also reviewed this as part of the launch of this channel. So back over 2 years ago now, I launched this channel with a review of this video as one of the launch episodes. And I did that because it's a familiar piece and I wanted to establish some points of commonality with the audience. But you know, over 2 years later, I still pull this thing out and use it to test audio gear with. And in this video, I am going to talk about why. And so we'll get to that right after shameless self-promotion.
Hi, I'm Wave Theory's human companion, and he wants you to know that your support of this YouTube channel helps keep the reviews coming. If you enjoy Wave Theory's honest, thorough style, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the links in the description below to sign up for the Patreon or send him a tip through PayPal. All right, enjoy the musings.
Pricing on this headphone varies a little bit. Typically, you're going to find it between about $150 and $200 anymore. And it flat out is one of the best buys in headphones. Definitely for under $200, even under $500, it's an excellent value, I think. And it really is remarkable because the core design of the DT880 dates back to about 1980. And it's had some aesthetic revisions and all of that, but it's still pretty much the same headphone that it was all the way back then. And so it has had remarkable staying power. And the fact that it still sounds really good and it's still relevant here in, you know, late September of 2023 really speaks to how well designed it is and what its performance is like. And also that it still fills somewhat of a niche in the audio market, in the headphone market, that has given it some longevity beyond what would have normally been expected, I think, given that it, again, its core design dates back to 1980. Okay. So let's dive into why I have this one and why I keep it around and so forth. So I don't think there is a more spatially holographic headphone for $200 or less. I think it is the price point leader, the price category leader in terms of its sound staging, its spatial imaging and separation. Remarkably good for the price there. Like, that aspect of its performance can challenge other headphones that cost several hundreds of dollars up there. Like, it can outstage many $500, $600, $700, $800 headphones out there and like be more accurate in its imaging and in its separation. Okay, that is a really remarkable feature of this thing. It also has excellent frequency extension. It does not have super robust or potent sub bass or like rumbly sub bass. It does have a little bit, but it's very linear in its extension. It just digs incredibly deep down into the bass. And then likewise, the treble extends way, way up there, all that. So the frequency extension on this thing is also really remarkable. Now, when it comes to the frequency response here, it is a neutral bright headphone, okay? There is definitely some added treble energy, and it's a treble shelf. It is pretty well tonally balanced treble. There is on this thing some sharpness and some peakiness in the consonant range on a lot of signal gear. but I don't think it's actually part of the headphone sound. I think, again, that it comes down to a signal chain issue more often than not, because on the wrong signal chain, this thing can have some of the sharpest, most piercing treble out there. In the price range, it's going to be a turnoff for a lot of people. On the right signal gear, it has some of the most natural and organic and realistic sounding treble timbre you are going to get at this price, and often significantly higher in price. Stunningly natural and realistic. So the last episode that I did of this series, this What Gear is My Gear series, I did the Mastrop Sennheiser HD6XX, which has that legendary mid-range timbre, and it deserves those accolades. This does for treble what the HD6XX does for mid-range. No jokes there. But it is hard to realize that this does that for treble because it puts such a high demand on a signal chain to get it there. And when the signal chain isn't getting it there, it gets really sharp and piercing. Okay, so those are a couple of the reasons that I keep it around here. It's just, for the price point, I think it is the reference in terms of spatial aspects of sound presentation, imaging, separation, pretty wide soundstage to go along with it. And it has like the best treble timbre that you can get at this price point, bar none, provided you have the right signal chain to get it there. Okay. Another aspect and another reason that I keep it around is because of that 600 ohm impedance. It is at 600 ohms and it has a rated sensitivity of about 96 dB per milliwatt, I think, right around in there. So it's got, you know, somewhat high-ish sensitivity, definitely not insensitive, okay? But it has that really high impedance. And so it is a stress test for a lot of amplifiers, particularly in the budget range, because you're going to look and say, oh, there's a Beyerdynamic headphone for under $200. Sign me up for that. And then a lot of people are going to plug it into whatever gear they have, and their treble is going to shoot right through their eardrums. And they're going to go, why would anyone do this? Okay. Part of that is the 600 ohm impedance. That makes it just an absolute torture test on a lot of mostly budget amplifiers, because it requires voltage swings from an amplifier that the power supplies in a lot of entry-level and budget enthusiast kind of amplifiers just cannot deliver. And a sonic outcome of that is poor control in the treble, which I think is where a lot of that sharpness comes from. Right, so that's one reason I keep it around, is this headphone really separates the men from the boys, so to speak, when it comes to amplifier quality, particularly in treble control. It's also a good match to like output transformerless, OTL tube amplifiers. Because of that. Those are usually high in output impedance, but they usually can handle voltage swings a lot better because tube amps are very good voltage amplifiers. And so these match well with a lot of OTL tube amps in there too. So that's another reason to keep this thing around. Okay, but those are the main points with this. Throw in that it's also very comfortable and very light, particularly if you get that attached stock cable off of it, so that you can plug it into balanced amplifiers and all that, as I have done. There might be a place or two on the web that still you can send these in to have that done. I will look, and if I find one, I will put a link down in the description for that. Okay, but it, you know, to sum up what I was saying there, it's very demanding on an amplifier, not necessarily from just a pure power standpoint, but from a control standpoint. And it's in the treble where it will really show off amplifier deficiencies, which is what a lot of people hear and I think are, you know, run away from this headphone because of. But oh my goodness, the treble timbre on this thing can be just shockingly, stunningly real and natural on this when you get it on an amplifier that can handle it well. And then the holography, the spatial presentation on here, class leading by a mile, okay, on this and all of that. So this is a good headphone for gamers, I think, too, because of that treble forwardness and just the spatial presentation and the accuracy of it. Like, it's just like, if you need to hear where footsteps are in your competitive FPS games and all that, like, this will do it, okay? But you've got to get an amplifier for it. So I think as far as amplifiers go, the entry point where this really starts to make sense, like the Shit Asgard 3 handles this pretty well. Anything by Lake People, generally, like Lake People does a really good job with solid state amps handling the voltage swings, but the G111 series is where this really starts to show up. If you are willing to balance mod this, Monolith Liquid Platinum, which often goes on sale for under $500, drives this really well too. Bottlehead Crack with Speedball upgrade sounds really good on this. Felix Echo, like, you know, those kinds of things. Those are really good amps to use for this. Op-amp based measurement chasing amps are where a lot of the problems come through. The JDS Labs Atom, super piercing on this. Monolith Liquid Platinum is okay, or not Liquid Platinum, Liquid Spark is okay. Does an all right job with this, but can do better. That one's probably the best of the true entry-level amps with this thing. Let's see, but like the topping L30 was just super piercing on this. Even toppings up through the A90 series get really piercing with this. They just they kind of freak out on the 600 ohm load, unfortunately. Okay, and so forth. So, don't want to repeat myself too much, but yeah, that's why I have this around. The 600 ohm impedance, it provides a unique load to amplifiers, which helps me evaluate amplifier quality. And then comparing other headphones to it, you gotta, like, you know, if you want to talk up your spatial presentation and your under $200 headphone, here's the benchmark. You want to talk treble timbre, and its timbre is pretty good through the entire frequency spectrum. If I haven't said that, like its mid-range timbre isn't HD 650/6XX good, but it's still good, okay? And the bass is not super is not super rumbly or all that, but it's well extended. It's got good texturing to it and good pitch definition and all that kind of stuff in there. So I like this a lot for classical music, jazz, soundtrack kind of things. And again, it's a good gaming headphone because of its spatial accuracy if you're into that sort of thing too. All right. Yeah, we'll leave it there. DT880, it is easy to recommend, but you do have to be very careful about what you plug it into. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. This has been What Gear is My Gear Part 9, excuse me. So I'm Wave Theory. This has been the DT880 600 ohm. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Check out my PayPal, my Patreon, all of those things you do to support YouTube channels. And as always, enjoy the music.